Islamic sacred texts. In Islam, there are two main sacred texts, the Quran, also spelled Quran, and the Hadith, or Hadith. These books teach and illustrate Islamic beliefs, values, and practices. They are also important historical documents, especially the Quran, which tell the story of the origins of the Islamic faith. The Quran is the most sacred text, as it is believed to be the literal word of God as revealed to Muhammad. The Hadith is a secondary text that records sayings of Muhammad and his followers. These two texts form the basis for all Islamic theology, practice and Sharia, Islamic law. The Judeo-Christian Bible is also respected as revelations from the true God, but Muslims believe the Bible to have been corrupted in transmission and translation. Quran. The word Quran means recitation in Arabic. This book is the sacred text of Islam and the highest authority in both religious and legal matters. Muslims believe the Quran to be a flawless record of the angel Gabriel's revelations to Muhammad from 610 until his death in 632 AD. It is also believed to be a perfect copy of a heavenly Quran that has existed eternally. Hadith. The word hadith means narrative or report in Arabic. The book is a record of the words and deeds of the Muhammad, his family, and his companions. Although not regarded as the spoken word of God like the Quran, Hadith is an important source of doctrine, law, and practice. Hadith. The sacred text called the Hadith, which is Arabic for narrative or report, is a record of Islamic tradition. It is a record of the words and deeds of the Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions. It is the second most important text in Islam next to the Quran. Although not regarded as the spoken word of God like the Quran, the Hadith is an important source of doctrine, law, and practice. It is revered in Islam as a major source of religious law and moral guidance, 1, and has been studied in Muslim religious colleges since the Middle Ages by both male and female scholars. 2. The word hadith technically refers to a single piece of tradition. A hadith is the Arabic plural, but in English it is used to refer to the entire body of Muslim tradition as well. Each hadith consists of two parts, the tradition itself, or matan, for instance, the words of the Prophet, and the isnad, chain of authorities. The isnad indicates the human transmitters through which the tradition was relayed. For example, one hadith reads, narrated Hisham ibn Urwa from his father who said, Isnad, while I was a youngster, I asked Aisha the wife of the Prophet, what about the meaning of the statement of Allah? Matan. 3. Collections of hadith were compiled in the first 3 centuries of Islamic history, with the above literary form taking shape early in the 2nd Islamic century, circa 720 CE. As might be expected, many hadiths arose, with varying degrees of authenticity. Muslim scholars soon set about the task of scrutinizing hadiths and distinguishing those which were sound, sahih, from those that were only good, hasan, or weak, da'if. Hadith criticism was solely based on the authenticity of the isnads, not on a scrutiny of the tradition itself. The question was not, is this the sort of thing Muhammad might credibly be imagined to have said or done? But is the report that he said or did it well supported in respect of witnesses and transmitters? The first question would have introduced too great a danger of subjective judgment or independence of mind. 4. Several such scholars compiled collections of hadith. The earliest is the Musnad of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, arranged by Isnad, but the collections of 6 other scholars, arranged by Matan, came to be recognized as canonical in Sunni Islam. Al-Bukhari, d. 870 CE. Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj, d. 875. Abu Da'ud, d. 888. Al-Tirmidhi, d. 892. Ibn Majah, d. 886. Al-Nasai, d. 915. Of these 6 books, the Sahih, sound collection, of Al-Bukhari, see Note 3, and the Sahih of Muslim are the best known and most quoted. These two are known as the 2 Sahih, and enjoy a prestige that virtually eclipses the other 4. 4. Shia Muslims use the above 6 hadith, but also have their own collections that focus on the sayings and virtues of the Imams. The 4 canonical Shia hadiths are those of Abu Jafar Muhammad al-Kolani, d. 940 CE. Ibn Babuya, d. 991. Al-Tusi, d. 1068. Al-Tusi compiled 2 collections. The Quran. The Quran is the most important book in Islam. It contains the teachings and story of the chief prophet of Islam, Muhammad. The Quran, whose name means recitation in Arabic, is the sacred text of Muslims and the highest authority in both religious and legal matters. Muslims believe the Quran to be a flawless record of the angel Gabriel's revelations to Muhammad from 610 until his death in 632 AD. It is also believed to be a perfect copy of a heavenly Quran that has existed eternally. The Quran's name is derived from the Gabriel's initial command to Muhammad to recite. Recitation is a fundamental concept associated with the Quran. The first followers of the Prophet memorized his recitation in order to recite it to others, following an established Arabic method for preserving poetry. The revelation was put in writing shortly after Muhammad's death to preserve the content from corruption, but it is still regarded as most authentic when recited aloud. Professional reciters of the Quran, qurra, are held in very high esteem, and have often been influential in deciding matters of doctrine or policy. Contents of the Quran. The Quran is roughly the length of the Christian New Testament. It is divided into 114 surahs, chapters, of widely varying length, which, with the exception of the opening surah, Fatiha, are generally arranged from longest to shortest. As the shortest chapters seem to date from the earlier period of Muhammad's revelation, this arrangement results in a reverse chronological order. Each surah has a heading, which usually incorporates the following elements. A title, for example the bee, the cow, taken from a prominent word in the surah, but one that does not usually represent its overall contents. The basmala, a formula prayer, for example in the name of God the Merciful, the Compassionate. An indication as to whether it was received at Mecca or Medina. The number of verses in the surah. In 29 of the surahs, fawati, or detached letters of unclear significance. They may be abbreviations, initials of owners of early manuscripts, or have some esoteric meaning. The verses, ayat, signs, also vary in length, with the shortest usually found in the earlier surahs. In these verses, the form closely resembles the rhymed prose of the seers, Khans, of Muhammad's time. The later verses are more detailed and less poetic. Most of the Quran is written in the first person plural, with Allah as the speaker. When Muhammad himself speaks, his words are introduced by say, to clarify he is being commanded by Allah to speak. The vocabulary of the Quran is overwhelmingly Arabic, but some terms are borrowed from Hebrew and Syriac, cultures with which Muhammad was familiar. Such words include Injil, Gospel, Tawrat, Law, Torah, Iblis, Devil, Amana, to believe, and Salat, prayer.